Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today's topic of discussion is unemployment, understanding its meaning, causes, types, and the policies to reduce or eliminate the situation of unemployment. So let's quickly move to the definition of unemployment. It refers to a situation where the individuals of working age are willing and able to work, but they are unable to secure the employment. It is calculated as with the help of an unemployment rate, which is considered to be one of the critical barometer of the economic health of our country. Now, why do we need to understand unemployment? So, unemployment in general represents the wasted productive capacity of any country. If the people of our country are not having enough jobs, they can face some financial hardships, loss of skills, diminished self esteem, and reduced future potential earning. So, in order to understand and to enable ourselves to improve the standard of living of our country people, we need to understand what is unemployment. Generally, there are four major types of unemployment. One is frictional, second, structural, third is seasonal, and the fourth one is cyclical in nature. Let's quickly move to the first type of unemployment, that is frictional unemployment, which is commonly called as the job search gap. Very fine examples of job search gap can be of a situation where the people are changing their jobs, and in that moment of time, while waiting and kind of giving time to accept the offer for the different companies, that time period is caused a type of unemployment which is called as frictional in nature. So, frictional unemployment means the time lag between leaving one job and starting the another, or between entering the labor market and securing first employment. This phenomena is very healthy in nature, and workers voluntarily seek better opportunities, career advancement, and more suitable positions after matching their skill and their preferences. Now, there can be n number of causes responsible for the frictional unemployment, like the transitions between the job because of better wages, better conditions, or career prospects. There can be another example like recent graduates entering the workforce and searching for suitable positions, individuals who are relocating to another new cities or countries or regions for their personal reasons. Also, the imperfect information about the job vacancies can also create frictional unemployment. And also, one of the very common thing is the time required for the interview processes, background checks, notice periods. The frictional unemployment is actually desirable in nature because it indicates the labor market flexibility and workers' ability to seek optimal job matches. Here we can see two major global examples of frictional unemployment where the students, the graduates in Germany, usually spend 2 to 4 months for searching suitable professional positions. The country has a very good employer and employee matching culture, which in return gives graduate an affordable time to select their proper roles and to fit into their particular positions according to the qualifications and aspirations. Another example can be of US, where the career transitions generally takes 3 to 5 years, and the job search on an average includes 3 to 6 months of waiting time period where the workers utilize their savings and networks while pursuing their better opportunities. Now, what can be the policies to, kind of reduce the frictional unemployment? The very first is develop a good information system wherein the real-time data on job vacancies, salary levels, and the skill demands enable the workers to make informed career decisions. Countries such as Singapore maintain a very comprehensive labor market database that help match workers to the opportunities while reducing the time spent in frictional unemployment. Another example can be of providing a support in terms of career counseling, CV writing workshops, interview preparations services, so that they can effectively present themselves in front of potential employers. Many countries kind of fund these kind of services through public employment offices so that they can prepare the candidates to secure jobs faster, reducing the frictional unemployment. Third way of understanding and reducing the frictional unemployment is kind of enhancing the job matching services. So there are developed countries and more of developing countries also, wherein the government employment agencies are set up. Some of the online platforms are set up through which the information flows from the employers to the job seekers. So on this particular PDF, you can see I have taken an example of UK's National Career Services, which provide a free career guidance. Then there are digital platforms in Germany like Jobors, which connects millions of job seekers with employers, reducing the search time significantly. The next type of unemployment is structural in nature, which in general means the difference or the mismatch between the skills and the location. So it is one of the most challenging forms of joblessness, which is arising out of fundamental misalignments between the worker's skill, location, or the qualification and the requirements of the available job. Just like frictional, structural unemployment is long term and painful, very important, affecting the entire communities when industries decline or relocate. The very much kind of causes responsible for structural unemployment is the technological change. So, because of the advent of AI and the automation, there are certain routine tasks which can kind of are eliminated because of this particular thing, and the workers they find very much difficult um, to perform their task because the robots can do that task in a very small amount of time. Then comes the globalization because of the integration of different economies around the world. The manufacturing jobs are kind of shifting towards those countries where the labor costs are very less. So, currently, we talk about India being one of the most demanded countries for manufacturing. There can be a possibility in future if there is any other country who provides cheap labor than India, which will also create an impact on India's economy. So, globalization is another reason. Next is the industrial decline. That means there are different kind of industries which are now declining. The newer or the kind of non-conventional sources of industries are coming up. So industries such as coal mining, traditional retail, these are kind of leaving the specialized workers with obsolete skills. Geographical immobility, workers cannot easily relocate because of family ties, housing ownerships, or financial constraint when the jobs are even exist elsewhere. So these are the reasons because of which the structural unemployment persists. And the last one is the skills mismatch because of our educational systems, which generally do not adapt quickly enough to changing labor market needs and producing such kind of graduates with that qualification which employers does not require. Examples around the world include UK, the coal mining decline, wherein during the 1980s, the communities experienced devastating structural unemployment as the industry contracted. So there were several miners with specialized skills found few alternative opportunities in those regions, and the communities still struggle with higher than average unemployment rates, demonstrating the structural unemployment. Another example can be of China, which is e-commerce revolution, wherein the China's rapid shift towards the e-commerce has displaced millions and millions of traditional and retail workers. The physical shop assistants, the street vendors, they kind of lack the digital skills required for the new economic jobs, creating a structural unemployment. Another example is of US, again of manufacturing automation. So there's a Rust Belt states which have experienced severe structural unemployment as manufacturing jobs moved overseas because of less labor cost or where things can be done through automation. So Detroit's automotive workers and Pittsburgh steel workers have faced such kind of thing. Now, what can be the different policy responses to reduce the structural unemployment? So there are policy responses with supply side solutions. So basically, we are talking from the aspect of the producers. So first of all is retraining programs. That means government funded educations and vocational training can help the workers to acquire such skills which are demanded by the modern employers. Germany's renowned Kurzarbeit schemes subsidize companies to retain the workers during the industrial transitions rather than dismissing them. Educational subsidies also can be given, and that can be used to reduce the barriers to skill acquisition. Countries such as Sweden offers generous study grants and loans for adults returning to education for better career transitions that reduce this kind of unemployment. Relocation assistance, some government also provide financial aid for the workers which are like moving towards a region for better employment prospects, which reduces the geographical immobility by covering the cost and providing them some housing supports. Regional development can also be one of the ways to reduce the structural unemployment, like investments in infrastructure and the incentives in the businesses to locate in the areas affected by structural employment can create the new opportunities. Another type of unemployment is seasonal unemployment, which is basically because of the seasons which we all kind of encounter. So, seasonal unemployment occurs in those industries where the demand for the labor fluctuates depending on the time of the year or the weather patterns or the cultural events. So, this seasonal joblessness is anticipated by both workers and employers who adjust their expectations and financial planning accordingly. So, there can be many examples of seasonal unemployment like agriculture, like sky in structures for several months, and the industries which are mostly affected by this kind of unemployment is agriculture. Then we have tourism, construction, retail, and the fishing industries majorly. So examples globally we can understand like Switzerland, the winter sports industry, which is basically in the regions of Alpine to experience the predictable unemployment from which time period? The April to November time period. Then we have a Brazil where agricultural cycles um, are like contributing towards the seasonal unemployment, like because of the harvest season, which creates a massive temporary employment from May to September, particularly in the regions which are mentioned here. And there are thousands of workers who migrate seasonally for harvest works, and similar patterns can also be occur in the sugarcane harvesting also. Then we have Canada, the tourism sector, like Niagara Falls, Prince Edward Island, to see a dramatic employment fluctuations between summer peaks and winter lulls. So hotels, restaurants, attractions hire extensively from May to September and then reduce their staff significantly in the colder months. Now, the policy responses for seasonal unemployment is the skill training programs. Very, very important because off-season training help workers to develop complementary skills for the alternative employment, because it's very important that during the off season we need some skills so that we can retain our employability. So agriculture workers might receive training in the maintenance, logistic, and the food processing skills, which can enhance their employability while maintaining the seasonal workforce for the peak periods. Then we have seasonal employment benefits like Canada's government employment insurance programs, which include specific provisions for seasonal workers, providing income support during the predictable off seasons. Another way is through economic diversification, where the governments encourage the development of complementary industries that provide the off season employment. So these are the certain examples which through which we can relate ourselves. And the last one is the cyclical unemployment, which is because of economic cycle effect, which is also termed as demand deficient unemployment, which represents the most economically devastating form of joblessness. So this is very, very harmful for any economy. It occurs when the entire economy contracts during recessions, causing job loss across multiple sectors simultaneously. There can be many causes responsible for it. Let's have a look over it, like initial shocks, economic confidence because of financial crisis, external shocks, or policy errors can reduce the demand, reduce consumption, which is ultimately related to one of the components of aggregate demand. Then decreased investments, businesses kind of postpone their expansion plans and reduce the capital expenditures. Production cuts, firms respond to lower demand by reducing the output and the workforce. Rising unemployment and multiplier effects like initial job losses ripples through supply chains, affecting the additional workers. So the two major examples can be of Spain, the financial crisis of 2008-2013, which is globally called as the Great Depression period, and the other one is the South Africa during the COVID-19 pandemic, where the unemployment rate jumped from 29% to 35% during the lockdown periods, which is considered to be one of the world's highest rates. The informal sector workers, particularly in tourism, hospitality, kind of face a catastrophic job losses, which resulted into compounded structural unemployment challenges. What can be the policies for the cyclical unemployment? So there are two important policies. The first is expansionary fiscal policy and the other one is job retention schemes. So expansionary fiscal policy is kind of increasing the aggregate demand in that particular country with the help of government by increasing the spending on infrastructural projects, public services, welfare, by cutting taxes to boost disposable incomes. Job retention schemes can also be one of the ways, like the government kind of subsidize wages to prevent the layoffs during the temporary downturns. And one of the famous example is UK's coronavirus job retention scheme, which kind of protected 11.7 million jobs by paying 80% of wages for the workers who couldn't work during the lockdowns, preventing the mass unemployment. Expansionary monetary policy, which is basically done by the central bank of that particular country, wherein they kind of reduce the interest rates so that the loans can be easily available for borrowing, investment, and consumption. Like the US government cut their rates to near zero in March 2020, which is again the COVID time, and launched some kind of quantitative easy programs such as 120 billion monthly in the assets. Then the targeted sector support like direct aids, which are given to the affected industries to prevent any further failures like aviation, hospitality, cultural sector, which receives certain kind of emergency funding during the COVID-19. Now, we'll talk about the policies to reduce the unemployment, that is the demand side approaches. So demand side policies focuses on increasing the ADE component in the economy. That means the total spending on the goods and services. As we all know, ADE component includes consumption plus investment from government expenditure to net export, which is export minus import. So these interventions are particularly effective for addressing the cyclical unemployment, which is caused by insufficient demand. So there are two major policies every country focuses on. One is fiscal, the other one is monetary. Here, the focus is to increase the aggregate demand. So through fiscal policies, the tax reductions are done so that people can start demanding more and can spend a good amount of money. And the government also inject the spending in the form of infrastructure development projects. The another one is in monetary policy, which includes the interest rate reductions and the quantitative easing, which is through the central banks purchasing the government bonds, injecting money into the banking system. More the funds in the bank, more availability of loan, and more will be the demand in the economy. Next, we have the effectiveness and the limitations of these two kind of policies. So what happens when demand side policy works best? So during the recession period, with significant cyclical unemployment, there is a spare capacity in the economy, in economies with flexible exchange rate, allowing the independent monetary policy. Potential risk can be like inflation. Because of excessive demand, the economy nears the full capacity can trigger the price increases, eroding their purchasing power of the people. There can be a situation of government debt increasement, inequality among the ownership, which created a kind of a rich poor gap, time lags because policies generally take months to impact the economy fully, and also ineffectiveness against the structural unemployment. Now, there are different policies to reduce unemployment from the supply side approach. So, that whenever we talk about the supply side approach, we are focusing towards the economy's productive capacity and the labor market efficiency. Very two important points. Unlike the demand side interventions, supply side kind of require years to show the results but create lasting improvements in employment and economic performance. So it can be done by various ways such as education and training subsidies, labor market flexibility reforms, and reducing the trade union power. There are different real world success stories which I have mentioned on this PDF. If you want, you can go through it, and I have kind of integrate some real world case studies so that this unemployment concept becomes more relatable, and uh, it will help us to build the quality of the content for our essay writing kind of questions for 15 markers in paper 1 and paper 2. So there's Germany, the vocational excellence, UK apprenticeship expansion, and Sweden, the lifelong learning support. So you can go through it. So basically, let's now we are at the verge of the conclusion, wherein to tackle the unemployment requires targeted policies. So understanding unemployment diverse forms, it is very important to have an effective policy, be it a frictional, structural, seasonal, cyclical ways of unemployment. Applying the inappropriate policies will result in a wastage of resources and kind of fails to address the genuine problems. So it is very important that we need to match the policies to the problems. If it is cyclical unemployment, immediate demand side intervention is done through fiscal stimulus. If it is structural unemployment, it requires patient long term supply side investments in education, training, and labor market reforms. If it is a fractional unemployment, benefits from improved information and matching services will definitely give good results. And for seasonal unemployment, the social protection and economic diversification is the main need. Combining short-term and long-term approaches, the most successful economies employ both kind of policies, the demand and the supply side. So during the periods of recession, aggressive demand can prevent the cyclical unemployment. Simultaneously, if we continue the investment in education and skills, it can also address the structural challenges. So the combination can give us maximum of effectiveness, providing immediate relief while building the long-term resilience. Also, to learn from global examples can also help us to build and to kind of reduce the unemployment levels, like Denmark's flexicurity model, Canada's seasonal employment insurance, rapid monetary and fiscal responses to COVID-19 across developed economies had shown us how the appropriate intervention works. And beyond statistics, the impact of human is also very much important. That means unemployment is not an economic statistic. It represents the individual's hardship, the family stress, the loss of potential, and social challenges. So, understanding employment's complexities enables the policymakers, the economists, and citizens to support the evidence based interventions. So these are some of the key takeaways for the IBDP economic students to understand what are the employment types and their causes, and how the different policies can address each type of unemployment forms. Then we have also analyzed some real world examples through economic frameworks and considered both economic and efficiency and equity impacts the policy. Then we synthesize the demand side and supply side approaches also for the policy recommendations. I hope you like my video. If there is any way I can help you out, please do write in the comment section. We'll definitely work on it. Thank you for giving your time. Have a great day.